Welcome, welcome. This is Mike Cosgrove with PCIA on our podcast, Pro Concepts. Welcome today. You can reach out to PCIA at 800-969-4041. Email address is pciaonline.com. And I'm with a good friend, Ursula Scroggs of DKSS today. Morning, nurse.
Thank you, Mike.
We've been together for a couple hours now. We had breakfast together. So I'll tell a quick little story. The first time I met my wife, so my wife and I have been married, it'll be 23 years in October. And the first day I met her, we were in college. And when I met her, I knew she was the one kind of thing. Like I just knew. It was a weird thing. It was super, whatever. And I know people say that, but I knew she was the one. And she didn't know it, but I knew she was the one.
Yeah, that works.
Well, my point of that story is the first time I heard Ursula give a presentation, which was the first time I met Ursula, I knew Urs and I were going to be friends. And so she's my work wife kind of thing.
Well,
so
I love that. I'm going to give you a high five for that for sure. That is just adorable. Thank you.
Oh, gosh, absolutely. So I always enjoy our time together, and we always have lots of good discussions on different things. So, Ursula, tell us about DKSS.
So, DKSS, we're CPAs and advisors, really a lot more than just accounting and tax. Our goal is to protect your business and help it grow.
Sure.
The firm's been around since 1953.
Wow.
And so we're looking at big anniversaries coming up. We're local. We've got 2 offices, one in Troy and one in St. Clair Shores.
Nice. Awesome. So,
Thank you.
As a group, I think DKSS, because we've worked with DKSS for years now.
Yeah.
You all have always been that extension, that board of directors that, bring us back to reality type folks, and everyone there is wonderful. So tell us about your start at DKSS. I know your start, but I want the audience to hear this as well.
You got it. So I know I don't look this old, so bear with me. I started with the firm, I can't believe it, 48 years ago.
Oh my
Same
gosh.
firm. I started as a co-op kid in high school.
Wow.
And I was one of those math and science heads, and I really wanted to be a doctor. But those co-op jobs for the doctor's offices were all taken, and they said, we've got this accounting firm downtown. You're good at math. Of course, I'm taking calculus at the time. And I took the job, and it just plain old stuck. I love what I do.
Wow.
48 years later, I still love what I do.
Good for you.
Yeah, so I've done every single job in that office. I still stack the dishwasher once in a while, but today I'm the managing director of the firm. We are the largest female-owned firm in the Great Lakes.
Awesome. How many staff do you have now?
We run between 55 and 60 folks on our team.
Good for you, Urs.
Thanks.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Thanks.
So outside of business, tell us something of interest about you that maybe everybody doesn't know.
So I told Mike this morning, he didn't know until this morning, but I speak on panels and things like that all the time. And so on Friday, I was on the Princess Cruise working with an association and speaking on a panel. And at the end of the cruise, they had a Motown band playing, and of course, Ursula danced her little legs off. Maybe my legs are smaller now as a result, and sang with the Motown band. I showed him a picture of me in the Motown band.
How fun is that?
Because I am a goofy accountant, so Mike says insurance may be boring. We are not. I am not boring.
Absolutely not. No, and that's why I knew we'd be friends.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, awesome. So before we get started, and today's podcast is the 10 ways to boost your business. But before we get started, what is your, if there was a book that you would say to a young person, you've got to read this book, what would that book be?
And I will tell you that every person on my team has read this book.
Oh,
It is called Now Discover Your Strengths by Marcus Buckingham. I love the book because, some of us know what our strengths are, but when you read the book, my favorite thing about the book is, first of all, you've got to buy a brand new copy. I don't know if that's my favorite, but Marketing Genius on their side, because each book has a tab in it that gives you a code to go onto the internet, take a Strength Finder test, and the results of the test bring you your top 5 strengths.
Sure.
And so we know the top 5 strengths of every one of our team members at DKSS.
Awesome is that?
And it's very cool because it helps, the back of the book gives you ideas on how to manage somebody that is an analytical person and be able to communicate. Really, it's about communication, to be able to communicate great
Okay.
with each other. And so, being the accountants that we are, we have this big old Excel spreadsheet with 34 strengths on it, and our people across the top of it, and with check marks as to what people's strengths are.
Sure.
It's a must read, I think.
Okay. In all ages. I mean, it could be right out of college. It could be 50 years old.
I gave it to my son. I gave it to my husband.
Sure.
Who were both very reluctant on me knowing what their strengths are. But all ages.
Okay. All right. So the podcast is the 10 ways to boost your business. And Ursula and I, during breakfast, we kind of decided, because Ursula is full of amazing, amazing ideas. And so she's actually got 40 ways to boost your business. And so what we thought we would do with today's podcast is make this kind of a teaser. And so we're going to give you the first 10, but we want to do an in-person. So we're going to do an in-person workshop, conference type thing, and invite clients and prospective clients and all that.
We might give you some food.
Yeah.
And food for thought.
Right. So we're going to give you 10, and then there's going to be another 30 after that when we do in person. So we'll do that. So Urs, what would be number one that you'd like to share?
Actually, before we do number one,
Sure.
I am a big fan of quotes, right? And so
Okay.
interspersed through all of these discussions and the future ones will be quotes by famous and very smart people. And so the first piece of our top 10 is going to be maximize your leadership role. I don't care if you are in charge of a janitor or you're in charge of the whole operation, you are a leader in your business. And so there's a great quote that says, the speed of the leader determines the rate of the pack. And so if you are slow moving and you walk in, your office opens at 8 o'clock in the morning and you show up at 10:30 every day, I promise you the pack is probably a little slowed down while you are not around. That's just a very little example, but the amount of energy that you put in to your business will become reflected in your teammates too.
Absolutely. So they start to match and mirror, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so number one, your job is to inspire and motivate your team. This is more important now than ever because in today's marketplace, the competition for great talent has just exacerbated.
Sure.
Right? I don't know about you, but every one of our clients is struggling to keep their best people.
Sure.
And struggling to find great people.
Everyone's looking for people right now.
Everyone's looking for people. Me too, in case you have anybody. So this concept of inspiring and motivating your staff, I learned this. I don't know if you all go to conferences, but I go to my accounting conferences, and most times I get the best information, not in the meeting,
Sure.
but after the meeting, whether it's at coffee, sometimes even better at the bar.
Sure.
And we share what's going on. And one of my great pals that runs a big CPA firm says he takes every one of his people and he mentally grades them, he writes it down actually, as to whether they are fine, good, or great.
Nice.
And his thought process behind that is that his great people, he is going to spend the most amount of time keeping them,
Sure.
rewarding them with special things. It might be a gift card or dinner, and I know you do things like this, Mike.
Sure.
Dinner for their folks, and mentoring, et cetera, because the great people are the ones that are going to step in and perhaps run the organization somewhere down the line. Right. Good. There's that Jim Collins book, Good to Great.
Sure.
And so good people can become great. They operate at their levels. They can be mentored to become great people. But the concept of fine is generally a fine person might not turn into a great person. And I don't want to say there's no opportunity.
Sure.
But you need fine people in your organization. I need people that can crack out tax returns and don't want the managing partner role.
Right.
And so every organization has their own definition of what great, good, and fine are. Figure out what yours are and then focus on your folks accordingly. It's your job to motivate them.
Sure. So, it's a great point, because I think what happens with a lot of businesses is they spend their time on the folks that are fine, trying to constantly pull them up. And not everybody, like you said, wants to be managing principal someday.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so focus on the efforts, because there's only so much time in the day. Focus on the efforts on the great.
Absolutely. So, Mike, you told me about something that you do on Monday mornings.
Sure. So we do every Monday, we have a Monday morning huddle, is what we call it. And so as a group, we get together and it sets the stage for the week. We talk about what's happening that week, or the next couple of weeks actually, and what opportunities we've got, what things clients are going to need from us at that time. And so it just kind of gets us all on that same page. So
you got to be rolling in the same direction, man.
Absolutely. And it's fast and furious, sometimes quicker than others. And actually, it just made me think of it. And I forget who the author is, but we're, as a group, doing a book called Be the Sun, Not the Salt.
Oh.
And it's a very short book. And so we do one little chapter. I mean, each chapter is probably something like 6 to 8 sentences long.
Oh, that's like my kind of book.
Exactly. It's a fast read, but we're doing one chapter, and I think there's 30 chapters in it, and we're at chapters 27. But it's a great book, just simple reminders of just simple things that, nothing. They use this term heliotropic a lot in the book, which I think is kind of interesting. But being the sun is about being positive. Pouring the salt on someone's roots is about being very negative, and that's what the whole gist of the book is. So another good book out there. So can I go with number 2?
I think you can do number 2.
All right. So number 2 on Ursula's list is delegate, do not abdicate. And it's interesting because as an organization, PCIA does a lot of educational type seminars for our clients, and we actually do a program called Great Delegation and Positive Feedback. And it's all about how we delegate or should delegate, and the type of feedback we should be giving to our staff members. And so it's a great program. But from a delegate standpoint, delegate's very different than dumping. And I think a lot of times people hold things. They've had it for 2 and 3 weeks. They're then going on vacation, and holy crap, someone else now needs to do this.
Right.
And now it's an emergency.
Right.
And that's not a good way to delegate. But so things that we have delegated appropriately, then it makes very good sense for us to inspect what we expect, is what I always say in regards to delegation. And that is not micromanaging, because that's not what we're talking about, but overseeing and making sure that that person that you've delegated to is getting their questions answered, that if they need help, you're there to help them. I mean, that's the point of being a leader, right? Is to jump in and say, hey, where do you need help on this?
Absolutely. And I think that there's a whole concept that surrounds humble leadership.
Sure.
And so humble leaders don't hesitate to go in and do some of the things that they've delegated.
Right.
I laugh about it, but I stack the dishwasher sometimes at night, and I'll pick up I'll look at somebody staying late. What can I do to help you?
Right.
So great humble leadership also. I don't like getting delegated upward, by the way, but humble leadership volunteers to help their team too, even though something's been delegated to them.
Sure. And I think that goes a long way from a cultural standpoint.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So number 3.
Number 3,
develop leadership skills, yours and your team members. When you're at the top of the ladder, it is way too early to stop learning.
Sure.
We
should never stop learning.
You should never stop learning. And so this building knowledge, that's why you're here.
Yeah.
You're here to learn and build knowledge. My daddy, we are from the old country, and so my dad immigrated here, and he gave me the whole speech about you have to always, he pointed to his head, you have to fill this, and you're going to work no matter what. You're going to work with this, or you're going to work, he showed his muscles, you're going to work with this, but you're going to work.
Right.
But he really instilled in me this concept of you never stop learning. And so people need to know their skill sets in order to do their jobs properly. So technical skills, but the real growth and the real power behind growth in an organization is other types of skills. Management, how do they coach their team members or their subordinates? And there are just a slew of wonderful organizations that provide these kinds of trainings. Your chambers of commerce, your industry organizations, they all have great training, not just on the technical skills.
Sure. I think in today's world, there's more resources available to us than ever, right? I mean,
absolutely.
They're everywhere. You just have to seek them out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, many of you have read Stephen Covey's book. That's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Sure.
Is that the book?
Sure.
7 Habits. And one of those things is sharpen the saw.
Okay.
Because we can be doing the same thing over and over again, but the guy that takes a little time out to sharpen the saw will get cut through the wood a hell of a lot faster.
Awesome.
Right.
It's funny. It made me think of in that delegation program that we do. Kind of reverting back to delegation for just a moment, but we may do a task the same way for, let's say, 10 years, and the saw becomes very dull. But the second we delegate it to someone, they look at it, they see how we've been sawing the log or whatever it is, and they realize, boy, if I sharpen this, but if I make this tweak, all of a sudden it'll save me time. I mean, that's the whole point of delegation. You give it to someone else that ends up being able to figure out how to do it even faster and better than you've done it.
And as a leader, how important to be open to these ideas.
Sure, absolutely.
We do have a habit, not a habit, policy in our firm that when we send anyone to any sort of management leadership training, they come back and they have to report to the team as to what did they learn. Because you don't know something until you have to, and plus it makes you pay attention when you're at the meetings, but you really don't know something unless you have to say it and share it.
Teach it, sure.
Share it.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. No, that's a great point, because the second you have to stand in front of the group and talk about what you learned, you better be paying attention to that conference, right?
Exactly.
All right. So number 4 on our list is model good character and integrity. And I think this one is really demonstrating what you expect in your staff. So if, kind of using your example, if you're showing up at 10:30, that says to everybody, hey, mornings are not that important. And I'm an old school guy where I believe in early bird gets the worm.
Yeah.
My kids
Mr. Mike Cosgrove, who calls me at 6:00 in the morning.
Well, only because I know you're up and at 'em.
That's
you know what I mean?
absolutely true.
But yes,
Absolutely true.
I'm a big believer in early bird gets the worm, and it doesn't mean that someone that is more of a night owl can't be successful, because I know lots of those people too. But anyways, I think I have over the years really set the stage internally that early bird, we get a lot of stuff done in the morning, and it's funny because I've watched the staff. And we will all start to, come 4:00, start kind of petering out. We might be there till 6 still, but you can just tell there's no more, we can't make decisions on things any longer.
Energy level drops a little.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Sure. Energy level drops a little bit. So anything from a good character and integrity standpoint that you want to?
So my business dad, I'll call him that, Frank Salusi, had a saying, and it's so true. Good character, it says, integrity is like virginity. You get to only lose it once.
Once it's gone, it's gone.
Once it's gone, it's gone. And we talk about that. We're in the accounting profession and tax profession, right? It's really important to have good integrity. You don't want things on Twitter or the news or wherever about something that your company did that was unsavory. We'll call it that.
Well, and I think in today's world, there's a lot of that going on. Big corporations kind of sticking their foot out on stuff. It's like, hey, just focus on making the sandwich, or just focus on what you really do well and let the rest be. So,
do you have any words on core values? Because core values are who the company is, right? And so most of us have core values. I think it's important to visit them and talk about them, maybe even at your Monday morning huddle meetings.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
This is who we are.
Constant reminder, right?
This is who we are as a company.
Right. That's great. Awesome.
Number 5, this is all about business accounting and things like that. And that is to develop strategic business plans, a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan. I can't tell you how often, though, people spend days and weeks and months doing their strategic planning. They bring coaches in and
spend a lot of money at that.
And they spend a lot of money at that, and it's time, and they do it, and they say, okay, we got our plan done, and it sits in the drawer.
Yeah.
Right? And so
no different than core values. It should be sitting on the corner of the desk, and it should be brought up at the appropriate times in meetings. Right? That's what we're really talking about. If you're going to develop that roadmap, well, without the map in hand, how are you going to get there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not necessarily something that I look at you, Mike, because I can't do mine like right off the top of my head. Shame on me. But, but have them displayed
Sure.
all through your office, and talk about them when you have your team meetings. Just say, let's talk about this core value.
Exactly.
And what does that mean both internally and externally in our organization? Again, it builds culture and it builds continuity.
Sure.
And consistency in your organization. So
When it's what makes DKSS unique.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, well, I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope so. All right. Here's a question for you, buddy.
Sure.
Who said knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens?
That one I don't know. I have no
idea. Are you
ready?
Ready? Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, okay.
Who knew? Who knew, right? But how true that is. And so
Sure.
You're out there being wise and listening. I really, maybe we should have said that at the beginning, but grade yourself on these items that are top 10s. And we'll have a report card for you to fill out when you come to our 30 more ways to boost your business.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great idea for them to have a report card that way. It's only for their eyes only, of course, but then they can kind of see areas that they need to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and I think that, that quote there, I mean, knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens. I mean, it goes back to, we were born with 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? And so we should be doing at least twice the amount of listening as we are talking.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that.
I'm sure I heard that somewhere. It's not a Mike
up.
Cosgrove
you
quote.
Didn't make that up. Okay, gotcha.
All right, so we're on number 6, and it's leverage the power of outside resources. Yep. Now, I will say this is one that I learned at a very young age. I'm 45 now, and this one is a game changer. And I've done a number of different things here personally. The very first thing I did right out of college was Dale Carnegie. And I was kind of sharing with Ursula that, and that's a resource. Dale Carnegie is a great resource. And actually we have them scheduled.
I've been through the class too.
Have you? Okay,
yeah,
sure.
I have.
And I've got them scheduled to do a podcast with us, but as well down the road. But that's a great group. I have a mentor in California that I've never met. And he's actually coming here. Him and his wife are coming Labor Day weekend and staying with us.
Wow!
So I'm pretty excited about that. And then I'm actually also involved in Vistage, which is a fantastic business organization of coaches and board of director type people. And that's great. And then as a side note, my youngest daughter is 12. And Sophia is a typical 12-year-old girl. She's just an amazing kid, and I love that. Sophie has her first coaching experience tomorrow, as a matter of fact, on Friday. Uh-huh. And it's with a young lady that is going to work with her on goal setting and kind of putting that phone away and just, you can be anything in this world, and what is it that you want to be, kind of going back to the roadmap thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for Sophia because I think she's going to love it.
I bet she's going to love it. I paid great dollars. This is before DKSS paid for, a lot of personal coaching and things like that. And so I threw, it was a lot of money for me back then, $8,000 on the table. And it was continuing. I was a managing partner of the firm. And who do you talk to when you are the leader of a firm?
Sure. Right. You have to have someone.
You've got a sounding board and that type of thing. And so I hired a business coach, and I think we taught each other a little.
Sure.
But just amazing, and there was this accountability factor. He was like a psychologist. He never told me what to do, but he asked me enough questions to lead me to where I should be going.
I love that.
And it was little stuff, even like show up 5 minutes early to a meeting.
Sure.
If you're going to be late, you call 5 minutes early before you're supposed to be there and tell people that you're late.
Right.
One of my favorites is being deliberate about relationships.
Oh.
Right? And he said that if you meet somebody that you like, let's say from a networking standpoint or whatever, that put appointments on the calendar a year in advance.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be on both of your calendars ahead of time.
Sure.
You can always cancel.
Right.
You can always move it. But if you really want to nourish a referral relationship,
sure,
have it on the we're going to meet for coffee every other month,
at
Starbucks or this place. And you have to be responsible if you can't make it, but you always reschedule. And there's a lot of power and consistency in working with your referral sources.
Awesome.
So how about this next one? Again, who do we report to? Business owners, et cetera. I think it's a good practice to subject yourself to an independent board of advisors.
Oh, yeah.
Large companies have board of directors that the president reports to because they need to
have outside influences and
yeah, absolutely,
Sure.
and stockholders and all of that kind of thing. But I think it's important also to do this with for yourself and in your small business. I don't care how small it is.
Sure.
And ask them, here's what's going on. How do you think I'm doing?
Sure.
What would you do if you were in my shoes?
Right.
And it doesn't have to be the same industry. It doesn't need to be the accountants necessarily. People that you trust.
Sure.
People that you trust.
Absolutely. Well, I think sometimes when you go outside the industry, it just puts a different perspective on things that still is very valid from we do a lot of events with the CPA FMA, with ALA, with AIA and ACEC and all these different groups. And I swear every time I go to these, it might be geared for engineers or geared for CPAs, I walk away with something that I can still relate to our own business in the insurance space.
Yeah, because it's professional services, right? In our case, but it can be manufacturers and the distributors. If you're manufacturing, maybe you want a distributor as one of your independent advisors.
Sure. Yeah, awesome.
Stay out there. Don't cocoon.
Right.
I know, a little hard to do during these times, but stay out there.
Well, we got Zoom nowadays, right? I mean, they can get on a Zoom, and I'll be the first to admit that prior to COVID and all of that, I had never done a Zoom call. And so there was no option. I mean, nothing like getting thrown into the deep end of the water, right? You better figure out how to swim real quick. And so I think we did very well as a company, but I had just never done a Zoom call. If somebody said, hey, let's do a Zoom, I'd have been like, no, I'll come see you and we'll have a cup of coffee and chat. And thank goodness we're getting back at that. But we still do plenty of Zoom calls and that. So we're on to number 8. Number 8 is stay on the cutting edge, pursue leadership role in industry trade associations. And I was sharing with Ursula that next month, so in September, I am the incoming president to an insurance group, and our conference is going to be in Chicago. And I'm very much looking forward to it. I don't get anything from a monetary standpoint out of doing it, but it's like any association. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. And so this conference is, I have to introduce all the speakers. I got to keep everything running, all of that good stuff. And we've got a really good panel set up. But the point is, I'm spending a lot of time, but I promise you, I will walk away from that conference with pages of notes of things that I need to be doing better.
Yep. And I'm a big believer to hang with your friends. Keep your friends close and your competitors closer.
Good point.
Because you're going to learn what's going on in your industry. You never know if you're going to meet somebody that you can buy.
Sure.
Or somebody that might buy you.
Sure.
When you belong to these associations. How about this one? Number 9, meet with your professional advisors collectively. Put them in a room together. Put your accountant, attorney, insurance consultant, banker, maybe your marketing folks, et cetera. There's a thing called competitive tension. And that sounds really scary, doesn't it? But
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So the competitive tension is that professional advisors always want to look good in front of their clients.
Sure.
Right. And so those advisors, if you say something brilliant, Michael, I'm going to be on the table, something brilliant to my client that's in that room too. And the client gets the best of what those advisors have to give. Once a year is a great thing to do.
Yeah, everybody earns their seat at the table, right?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. All right, and then number 10 is invest in a personal mentor or business coach. And I kind of talked about some of the things I've done there, but if those of you that are listening have not done that, I mean, start Googling. There are all kinds of amazing people that can help basically in your growth opportunity and help you get where you want to go. That's the whole point of investing in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a number 11. Can I do 11?
We can do a bonus.
All right, bonus. You need to be talking to your CPAs right now. Does anybody that is listening here think taxes are going to go down? Do you think taxes are going to go down, Michael?
No.
There are strategies that you need to incorporate to protect what you have.
Sure.
All in the income tax, personal income tax, business income tax, credits, deductions, estate taxes especially.
Sure.
So stay tuned for more.
Sure. They should be talking to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So speaking of that, if an audience member wanted to get a hold of you, Ursula, or DKSS, how would they do that?
So our website is dksscpas.com, or you can call Ursula at 248-649-3400. I will pick up the phone. I might answer it actually, because I used to do that. But reach out. We are happy to be a sounding board for you.
Absolutely. And all of these details, by the way, will be in the notes of this podcast, so you'll be able to click on that and see her website address and all of that good stuff there too. So Ursula, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Way fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining. And I knew the time would fly for us. So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So if you need to get a hold of PCIA, we can be reached at 800-969-4041. Website address is PCIAonline.com. And until next time, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Take care. Go make money.